I couldn't relate to the product.
Some of the surprising things that came out.
You think you know how to be an entrepreneur and build a business, but you really don't till you actually become one.
What were some things that you had to unlearn?
The importance of decision making on long term, the amount of education that we have to do as a brand was a lot higher than I expected.
Our own association with food brings comfort, that fights boredom, that brings joy, that does so many other things.
Parents themselves are not following a certain way of eating and healthy living, so it's very hard for them to actually bring it to their kids.
If you were to kind of recount in terms of educating your customers, what's like the wildest thing that came your way?
My mother, she's like, you grew up eating everything. I said, yes, this is why I struggled with weight all my life.
What was something that was surprising to you even at that level of information that you already had?
How important breast milk is. It's actually the highest form of protein. A child is, when they're on breastfeeding, they're almost 2.2 of their body weight of protein.
Little babies still around 1.5, they're cute and chubby, and then suddenly they'll be like leaning out and everybody would say that they're just growing up. What are the plans for the future? Do you plan to increase this? Do you plan to make this steady, increase the revenue? Where's the focus?
We have this vision of being the ones that will change how kids eat in schools. It's been harder than I thought it would have been.
Well, that is true, but what's the one product you really hope to kind of take off?
Oh, it's Chocolita. Like we have Chocolita, which is a high protein chocolate spread. I would say it's our hero product. It just bleeds you.
In this episode of Simple Pivots, I sit down with Sonali Saraogi Singh, who went from co-founding Instapizza to building Feed Smart, clean kids food brand born out of both frustration and love. We talk about what it really means to go from second in command to founder, the myth of healthy packaged food, and why educating Indian parents about nutrition is a full-time job in itself. If you're a parent, a founder, or just someone trying to eat better, this one's for you. I was reading up on what you've been doing all this time, and you went from high calorie, really yummy Instapizza to healthy and really yummy Feed Smart. Tell me, was this something that you always wanted to do, the direction of going towards health food, or was it something that changed after your daughter was born?
No, I think I was inclined. A primary reason for me to exit Instapizza was because I couldn't relate to the product, right? Like I could relate to the business that I had built with Ashwin, the team, the operations, and the concept of being in food because I've always wanted to be in food. But I think that definitely there was a disconnect. I was launching ragi pizzas and gluten-free bases and always. So my inclination has always been towards the healthy side of living. So
Yeah.
I think that was a obvious, and then I was in a situation where I couldn't open my own cloud kitchen per se with with the food that I would have liked to, but also because, just a new mom, first time, I would have been, I couldn't also imagine how are we going to kitchen and feeding and doing everything together. So I think that's when I started alluding more to the idea of a packaged food brand,
Okay.
right? And when he started talking and then, what to do, how to do it, and that's how sort of nutrition for kids came in because of my own experiences and my best friend also, her daughter 3-4 months ahead of my daughter. So it was a conversation we kept having,
Okay.
the what's going to happen at 6 months, like how do we start this journey and what are the options?
And how has the Feed Smart journey been till now? What has been some of the surprising things that came out?
No, it's been a roller coaster. You think you know how to be an entrepreneur and build a business, but you really don't till you actually become one, Like you
Yeah.
think that working for someone I've had 2 long stints with 2 very headstrong founders, right? Chef Ritu and Ashwin, right? Who know their own, who I would say they've been alpha and beta for good 12 years, right?
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
I think, one would think that that would prepare me to take the alpha role well. It's a whole different game, yeah, when you're driving seat.
Yeah.
And the decision making matrix, then what you want to do versus, what you should be doing. There's so much that comes in. So I would say it's been a roller coaster, but of course I enjoy it. Let's put it that way. It's not something that brings me down. I look forward to fun days. I enjoy working. And yes, of course, there are days I do think that, why did I get into this? Like, why am I doing this? But overall, it's definitely something that I'm fully game for and I enjoy.
Hmm. So, like you mentioned, you had to learn a lot of things when you became a founder yourself instead of
Yeah.
being in the second in command. What were some things that you had to unlearn?
I mean, yeah, so you unlearn to learn, right? um, when you were second, you kind of, the decision making wasn't yours. Like you would make a decision, you'd give an opinion, but the final verdict maybe would always come, or it would be a joint decision, right? Here, it stops, the buck stops at you, right? Um, so the repercussions of every decision become very crucial, right? So you have to
Hmm.
think about it. You have to think ahead that, okay,
Hmm.
if I make this decision to go down this path, where is it going to take my business a couple of months down
Hmm.
the line, right? Um,
Hmm.
how does it imply on the financial, you can't just go ahead and launch products. What is the financial implication? How do you plan it? How does the customer perceive your brand? So many things come that you didn't think of when you were not in that position. Like, so I had to unlearn how I would make decisions, relearn the importance of decision making on long term sort of impact of the business and the vision, right? And how to tie everything back to that one vision that you have, because if you don't bring it back to that one center thought, things can just really spiral. Yeah,
That's
yeah,
true.
yeah. So
That's
these are
true.
few things, also, I mean, I think I realized that just being in the industry that I have picked, um, the education or the amount of education that we have to do as a brand was a
Hmm.
lot higher than I expected. I thought that, of course, yeah, like, why wouldn't people want to feed healthy things to their kids, right? But no,
Yeah.
that's really not the case. Yeah, it's an uphill climb. It's like you're making people unlearn their conditioning and then go
Uh-huh.
into a new form of thinking, which isn't easy, you know?
Yeah.
And then to
Yeah.
make them stick to it, because they themselves right now, parents themselves are not following a certain way of eating and healthy living, so it's very hard for them to actually bring it to their kids. They might think that they can, right? हाँ मैंने नहीं किया but बच्चों के लिए कर देंगे, but the child actually at the end of the day mimics the parents.
Yeah, I can totally resonate with that. I mean, I have a daughter of my own, and I also feel that as they grow older, it becomes one of those things where you're like, it's okay, it's just one day, let them have this chocolate. So a lot of that also comes into play, and you're very right. Your own conditioning, like our own association with
Yeah,
food, as something that brings comfort, that fights boredom, that brings joy, that does
it's
so
exactly.
many other things, that making it be entirely healthy becomes difficult. In fact,
Yeah.
this was something that I was going to ask you in terms of the challenges that you have had. If you were to kind of recount in terms of educating your customers, what's like the wildest thing that came your way?
No, wild is, yeah, too, a lot of wild stuff comes, right? Like, I mean, why sugar bad?
Hmm.
So basic, right? And I was like,
Yeah.
हमने तो खाया था तो फिर, and this is like from my mother, you know, like, oh my God, your daughter's eating ragi pancakes. Like, why aren't you giving her proper pancakes, right? And I'm just like, no, my mom, dude. Like, seriously, just don't. And she's like, you grew up eating everything. I said, yes, this is why I struggled with weight all my life.
Yeah. Yeah.
So just because the science at that point wasn't there on the importance of the nutrition foundation, and now
Hmm.
it is, we have to adapt accordingly. Our lifestyles are very different to when we were kids. We have
Yeah.
to adapt accordingly. So, so these things come to, like, we never gave it to you, to our kids. Why are you so strict about it? Or like, then I also get a lot of extreme parents who've never given their child any form of sugar for 3 to 4 years. So who think that even
Wow.
Street Smart is really not what they would do, because
Okay.
that ultimately there are alternative forms of sugar in it, right? Um,
Yeah.
so that's the other extreme also you get, and you're
Hmm.
like, interesting, because they're like, she's not allowed anything, no birthday cakes, nothing. And then you think that can actually go really wrong, right?
Yeah.
Because when child is out and about, and it's not like in our Indian schools have some amazing healthy food or whatever the hell, right? So what will they do when they're given things like this? Like, what will they do when they get gems and Cadbury's and things like that, right? So you have to find a balance. So yeah, so there are all kinds of
All
people.
kinds of parents that
Yeah.
come up. Yeah. And I actually went to listen to your podcast also, and thank
Hmm.
you so much for putting that out there, because I also got
Yeah.
to learn a couple of gems. And one of the things that struck me was that, mothers of our generation, we have grown up with our own body issues, popular culture, whatever. There was an image, there was everything, and we are trying actively to reshape that for our daughters. Um, what are some of the things that you hope that your daughter kind of imbibes entirely through this process?
I live a fairly healthy, consistent, every day is the same kind of a day life, right? And I do get from a lot of people saying that, listen, you're too much of a hard out, right? So, at least I hope that she will also be a hard out. It's at least, like, I mean, me and my husband wake up early and we hit the gym, right? It's now, and now she knows that, okay, fine, that she started school, so now we drop her and then we sort of go. But until the last 4 years, before she would wake, like, even though she knows that, okay, I'm going to sleep with mom, when I wake up, mom's not going to be there because she's gone to the gym, right? This was very hard for me to do because you go through guilt, you're like, oh, I'm leaving my daughter and this and that, I'm going to gym. But I know it's the most important thing for me to be present for her, right? Is to take that hour and a half out. The second thing that would come is that it's just our eating habits, right? We eat a certain way, we choose to eat a certain way. We don't have, like, my pantry is pretty much, if I open it up, whatever I can eat, she can eat, you know.
Hmm.
ऐसे नहीं है
Hmm.
कि, we've kept some junk pantry for ourselves, that
Yeah.
comes out at 12 o'clock at night, or like a stool up or something.
Yeah.
We've not done that. And I think, so she'll basically know that this is what is general in life. And then when we go out, then we can
Hmm.
have, let's say, fries, and we can have ice cream, and we can have all that. But these are not things you're bringing at home.
Yeah. No, that makes so much sense
Yeah.
that, it is a treat. So you get a treat when you go out,
Yeah,
and at
yeah,
home
sure.
it's not there, which I think is a great way to kind of demarcate early on in a child's head that this is how and obviously the most difficult part of it is having to do it yourself, for yourself, also making that habit. If you were to shift gears back
Mm.
to your work and give back to Feed Smart, what are some of the labels, or what are some of the things that you have seen on aisles which are called healthy but not really, according to you?
I mean, there's a lot. Like, I personally feel that forget packaged food, right? We're now entering that era where people think, हाँ, fresh खाना है तो अच्छा है, you know.
Huh,
But
huh,
even that needs to be deconstructed, right?
hmm,
Even fresh food that you eat, if it's not nutritionally balanced with your protein, your macros, is a
hmm,
problem, right? Because
hmm,
the reason why India has such a high obesity rate in children and adults, because we are protein deficient and very high on carbohydrates based on what we can consume. So, I mean, labels, so there are crazy, right? I think pretty much every packaged food label that says, let's say that says no added sugar. You want to read at the back what exactly they mean by that, right? Because it can mean a lot of things. It can mean alternative forms of sugar, which is also fine because you don't spike glucose. But like, but to support that, let's say if they're putting maltitol or things like that, what are the other chemicals and preservatives that go in, right?
hmm,
So label reading is a bit complex. I always say that if you can recognize 60 to 70% of what is there, you're still in
hmm,
a safe zone, right? And if you are picking something because it's high protein, because the definition of high protein FSA is what, 11 grams for minimum, whatever, 100, 11%, which is nothing,
hmm,
right?
hmm, hmm.
Um, um, so if a product is X, 11% should be the protein component, which is very low, right?
Yeah.
Anything, a lot of dishes out that. So what is the carbohydrates that you're eating to get that 10 grams of protein, right?
Ah, okay.
It's very important to understand that, because if you're eating 30 grams of carbs just to get 11 grams of protein,
It's not a good.
it's not worth, that's why I don't do protein bars, right? Like
Yeah.
it's very tough to get a lean protein bar. It's not lean protein, it's just protein. So
It's just.
these are more things that I am now working with, trying to figure out myself, because, um, I think we're in that era where protein is all there, but at what cost?
I read that you went to Stanford and you actually took a nutrition
Mm,
course before you actually launched FeedSmart. Even having such a good background in food with Instapizza and with Chef Dalmia, what was something that was surprising to you even at that level of information that you already had?
in nutrition course, you kind of understand the science, right? What is a protein? What is a carb? What is a fat? What is fiber? Where do they come from? How does the body treat it? What is a long chain, fat, short chain, triglycerides? All these, it's a more technical thing, right? To understand nutrition. Food is
Mm-hmm.
what we eat, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but then to make food that is nutritionally inclined is where you have to merge the two, right? But I think for me that was important to do because I actually understood. Like everyone keeps saying, throwing words, but what does it really mean? Like what does it mean that okay, fruits are simple carbs, but millets are complex carbs? So these
Mm-hmm.
are the kind of things that I think were very helpful to understand through this course. And I think the other thing that I really understood was how important breast milk is. Right? They spend a lot of time on this because it's actually the highest form of protein. You know,
Oh,
so
okay.
a child is, when they're on breastfeeding, they're almost 2.2 of their body weight of protein, right? This is
Mm-hmm.
why you see a lot of breastfed kids are really nice and, chubby and, all of that. And then once they start solids and once they completely wean off, you'll see they shrink, right?
Yeah.
Because obviously the
Oh.
diet, yeah, the diet is not able to keep up the protein, right? You're,
Oh, yeah.
yeah, so if you're on 40, 50 grams of protein because of breast milk, you're definitely on 20 grams when you're eating, right? And that does have an effect.
Yeah, now that you say it, and you see it around you all the time, right? Little babies still around 1.5, they're cute and chubby, and then suddenly they'll be like leaning out, and everybody would say that they're just growing up. But I have never made that connection. So thank you so much for
Yeah,
sharing
yeah,
that.
it's just pretty much, that's why and they're like, yeah, तुम बच्चों को protein भी खिला रही हो. I was like, क्या चाहिए? Then I tried to give this analogy and the people like, acha, okay. I said, yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that definitely eye-opening. And when I look at all the products that you have
Mm.
within FeedSmart right now, the focus, of course, is on spreads. It's on little nibbles that babies like. Um, and correct me if I'm wrong. It looks like the focus is still on the younger kids, like the toddlers and until 4 or 5. What are the plans for the future? Do you plan to increase this? Do you plan to make this steady, increase the revenue? Where's the focus?
It got built out for the younger kids because I just feel that parents are more focused on what they're feeding their kids till the age of, um, uh, you
For
know,
4, 5, yeah.
4, 5, max 6. After that, the child knows
Yeah,
exactly what they want to eat. Right? There's very little you can do,
yeah.
except the invisible nutrition that you can add to their food. Um, so that wasn't really like we didn't go out to do that. It started happening. And
Mm-hmm.
then we started venturing out into schools. Like in the last few months, we started thinking that what more can we do beyond just the packaged food because kids, for us to make impact, we have to go deeper with it, right? And that's when we started researching what's happening in schools and realized it's huge, like huge in the sense that there is nothing happening, right? Like there is zero thought of nutrition in a school. Even though we have this vision of getting into schools and being the ones that will change how kids eat in schools, it's been harder than I thought it would have been to implement because they don't want to change. Like the schools, the cost of change for them, just having that there is a service provider who can give you meals that are nutritionally balanced for your children is not enough. Like that's not reason enough to change, you know, because their current caterers or whatever, there's a system that's working. They don't want to erupt it. So the change is not worth the change. Let's put it that way. So that's what where we're at in figuring out are we actually going to be able to crack the school vertical or not? Because it's a whole B2B angle. There's a fair amount of the gestation period to close a deal is very high. You know, and there's a third one that I'm working on, but I'll talk a bit more about it when I'm closer to uh, uh, talking about it. Let's put it that way.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. No,
Yeah.
makes
But now we
sense.
have a kitchen. So, we've got a fresh food kitchen, right? We opened it for the
Oh, okay.
schools. So that's what I'm playing with to see how can we actually reach more people with maybe fresh food now.
That of course opens up so many other options, right? You can get into fresh food offline, maybe possibly, and I think schools is obviously such a great idea because even in my daughter's case, there is like 3 meals and snacks and so much happening at school, but you also see those brownies and gajar ka halwa and this and that, and as a parent who's not as knowledgeable in nutrition, even though you are mindful of it,
Yeah.
what you only end up focusing on the sugar content, but you're
Mm.
probably not focusing so much on how much protein and the calculation of it. And I would assume schools are
They have
also
no
a
idea.
little bit,
Zero,
yeah,
zero.
they are focused on, my daughter is always like, my school's food is so tasty, don't make XYZ at home because you can't make it as good as the school does. And I'm like, well, that is true,
Yeah.
but
Let's see what actually goes into making it that tasty.
exactly.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I can hear it, and then obviously the how does the cost
There's a
transfer to
lot of
the.
things, and I thought that we would just be the martyrdoms who go in and say, guys, we've got a fantastic solution for you, and we're going to change your nutritional profile in your school, and they would just jump at it. It didn't happen that way.
Okay.
So, yes, that's where
And
we're at.
coming back to the packaged food that is your bread and butter and your sole
Hmm.
focus at this point in time. Is there? I think I asked this, but is there an idea to branch out to offering something that older kids can also enjoy? Is
Yeah.
there an idea to do, come back to that ragi pizza base, or
Mhm.
things like that?
Yeah. So we have to, we've stuck to spreads, we've stuck to ketchup, we've and our boosters. These are the three categories that have sort of done well for us. And now we're taking a break from launching products just to understand where and how we want to launch next in. So that is something that both Rich and I are sort of going back to the drawing board and seeing, what it is. Because whether you get into adults or older kids, it's almost the same market, right? So then there is no point because unless you're doing something like a milk mix, which has different levels of protein for, let's say, a 4-year-old versus a 10-year-old, right? That is probably the only product that I would differentiate can go into different categories of kids, right?
Hmm. Hmm.
But if you're sticking in the packaged food product in the zone, then one is your younger kids up to 4, 5, then it's just
Hmm.
everyone else, you know.
Okay.
So we have to now decide as to which way we're going to introduce more products here. Are we going to go vertically deep or horizontally wide? Or are we going to actually think of getting into something for adults and make it a family, um, you know,
Understood.
thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, makes sense. Makes sense. And like we said, if we don't change the habits of parents, we can't really change the habit of kids. So that makes sense as well.
Yeah.
But if 5 years down the line, if we walk in a supermarket and see Feed Smart there, what's the one product you really hope to kind of take off
Oh, it's
5 years?
Chocolita. Like we have Chocolita, which is a high protein chocolate spread, I would say, is our hero product. It's what sort of FeedSmart is known for, right? And then we launched Chocolita Pops, which was the lollipops with it,
Hmm.
but that's a fair share of our revenue, just these two products, right? And if we get into packaged food, the next product that we are looking or working on is a variation of Chocolita in a different form,
Okay. All right. That
because
makes sense.
that seems to be where people are recognizing the brand, right? And
Huh.
that's what they're coming back for because they feel that other products are still found with other brands, but Chocolita is a specific taste that we've gathered sort of reviews and we've gathered a lot of loyal following for.
And in terms of sales channels, what's doing the best for you? Are you on quick service? Uh, are
Quick
you on
commerce,
Blinkit? Yeah,
yeah,
quick
yeah,
commerce.
yeah. We got on Blinkit, but I've had to pull out my stock. It just
Okay.
it just bleeds you when you're not a fully funded company,
Yeah.
and you
Yeah.
don't know how much it's going to bleed you because you think, oh my God, I'm getting on Blinkit. But
Yeah.
it's insane. It's insane. So I said that, guys, we're not there yet, right? We have to
Yeah.
pay for ads. We have to pay for storage. At the current AOV, we will never be able to make money on this as a
Hmm.
distribution channel. So we went through it. We onboarded. Now we pulled back, right? But our website and Amazon are our two strongest channels.
Okay. So Amazon does well for you. I
Yeah,
also
yeah. And
imagine
First
that,
Cry.
and oh, of
Yeah,
course,
yeah.
yes.
First Cry
First,
does very
that
well.
would be like the perfect
Yes,
partner for
yes.
this. Yeah. Offline stores?
No, it's a very
No.
cash flow heavy game, right? Because you don't get
Uh,
paid for at least 3 months in stores, and
yeah.
the whole consumerism in India is changing. The people we service are on quick commerce, right?
Yeah.
They are not
That's.
really, no one's really stepping out that much unless you do some certain very focused healthy food stores, right? But I think they're just between our website, Amazon, and FirstCry, we have enough to cover.
Okay, all right. Just being able to build your brand through your website first has, I assume, helped both Amazon and FirstCry also, because now people have recognition and they're able to kind of get.
Yes, and also we get access to our database, so we know our customers. We can call them, we can understand what they like, we can see who's a repeat buyer. So there's a lot of access to data you get.
Yeah. Speaking of which, what was one insight that you learned from your consumers, which was like, oh, I never thought of that.
What I said earlier, because when we started calling a lot of customers, right, a lot of people, like this, there seems to be an extreme set of parents,
Yeah,
like,
you told me.
yeah,
Yeah.
so one who doesn't care and one who cares too much, right? We started discovering a lot of these because they end up buying our boosters, like our seeds powder, our immunity, and nothing. And I said, so how come you're not buying the other products? They said, no, I don't give sugar to my child. Okay,
Ah.
simple. So, okay, interesting. How old is your child? About 5. I said, you've managed to keep away sugar for 5 years. They said, yeah, she doesn't eat it and she doesn't like it either. I said, okay, amazing. So a lot of these came up and I was
Hmm.
quite surprised, like because I didn't expect it. Right? I know how hard it is. And for my
Yeah.
daughter, so anyways, Chocolita is like her second love. So it's very hard for me to, not try my products with her, you know. So
Yeah,
she's
of
been
course.
exposed to the journey at a young age, right? So I've
Yeah.
had to ration it out for her. But the thing is that ultimately there is a whole set of parents coming up who are that hard out and actually don't even want to give sugar, which is a good thing maybe because India does need some extremes given where we're going with obesity.
Yeah.
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 And then, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. And then, I think the other thing which is really nice is that people are willing to wait for an X amount of time for the product. Like, delivery, it takes 3, 4 days. In this day
Hmm.
and age, the fact that people are looking to wait that long is a good sign for your brand as well.
Clearly, your first set of loyalists are the ones who are extremely committed to what goes into their children's this thing. Probably even more committed than you expected, which is great. But for the rest of parents who are probably still trying to figure out how to kind of create that balance, what's a quick swap uh, that you would suggest to them that's easy to implement, that doesn't require too much effort from their side?
Yeah, I mean, one is just make sure you start your child's day with protein. You know,
Mm,
it's very important. Avoid the sugar, the cereals. Cereals are a bad idea, no matter how healthy they are.
yeah.
Stick to like stick to milk. Stick to
Mm,
if you can eggs in any form, mashed, this, that, whatever it is, right? Stick to cream cheese sandwiches, things like that, which
mm,
are savory, which give sustained energy, right? It's a very important thing. Avoid any form of sweetness post 5. Like I say, post 5, nothing, you know,
okay.
allows them to sleep better, makes them, so just if you follow these two and then build a culture which is more about breakfast, lunch, dinner as opposed to like 7 meals a day, you know,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
also really makes a difference because then the body gets hungry at a certain time every day
Mm,
and then and it's even this is for adults that it's easy for them. It doesn't have to do a lot of thinking. It knows it's time to eat. It knows it's time to digest. Now it's time to go to sleep. Right. If you
mm.
set a routine for them, their hunger cues are better and they eat better.
Thank you. That
Yeah.
that's extremely helpful. Thank you so much, Sonali. I think that kind of we ran the whole gamut of how the business is doing and how you have thought about it as a founder. And thanks so much for your time.
Thank you. It was lovely
I
talking to
hope
you.
the next time we speak, it's like a national brand and it's everywhere, and
Yes.
we don't even have to speak about that.
Yeah.